Hey y'all.
Hello, hello.
It's Lauren.
It's Jamie. Welcome to the Chicks and Dip podcast.
Welcome back, y'all. We've got another really good episode coming up with a great guest. And as usual, we're going to go over the random things that Jamie and I have been talking about over Chips and Dip this week.
Literally so random. It's
Literally
always so random.
Yeah, this first topic came up literally over these Chips and Dip on our set, like what, an hour ago?
Yeah. And then it came up with our guest. So we were like, all right, this is exactly what we need to open up with.
Crazy. So we were sitting here and I said, Jamie, did you watch Game of Thrones?
And my answer was,
I was going to say, how are we playing this? Are we acting it out now?
No, I haven't. I've seen like 2 episodes, but I haven't actually watched it. What is it, on HBO or something?
Mm-hmm.
You hear me in the office every day. I'm like, I don't have HBO. I literally only have Netflix because my sister and I split it. And I guess Amazon Prime Video, right?
You should get HBO.
I should.
There's like a bundle. You can probably get like HBO with Disney Plus, or maybe it's Hulu and Disney. I don't know.
I thought it was ESPN and Disney. I don't know. Anyways,
if somebody has a HBO login that Jamie can borrow,
please
hit her up.
Hit me up.
But yeah, so she said no, and I was like, well, I'm going to tell you the story anyway. My Snapchat memory was me and my sister. We went down to St. Augustine a couple years ago, and they have a museum of torture, and it is so bizarre, and it was like the best $30 I ever spent. Like, it's literally room after room of these like dusty looking mannequins, and it's like throughout history all the ways that they would like torture people. Like, it's really, it sounds fucked up, and it is, honestly. Like, and so I'll dive into it. But my Snapchat memory was my sister, and she was like going around the room, and she was counting how many of them were featured in Game of Thrones, how many of the torture methods
Oh
were
my God.
on
Okay,
Game of
wait.
Thrones.
You left out that detail earlier. It literally just turned into like she went into a torture museum, but there was no context of why Game of Thrones was a part of that. So now the dots are connected for me. Thank you for that.
It makes sense.
That is hysterical. And
Yeah.
then we started getting into a talk where I'm like, I think stuff like that is so cool.
It is. It's
We're like, are we messed up?
cool, right? Yeah, cool feels like the wrong word, because it's like if I think torture is cool, like maybe I'm not okay.
Yeah, like I personally would never do that to somebody, but like it's kind of wild. I think it's because it's wild to think that legitimately people did that at one point in time, which I literally said this the other day. Whenever I think of something so obscure and it's like, oh, no one would ever do that. There's so many people in this world that some psycho has done it.
Yes, and that's
Clearly.
what I think I feel like it's natural, like human curiosity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Natural curiosity to see how we can torture them with rats.
no, not curiosity. Okay, hold on. Oh, shit. I don't mean it's natural human curiosity to want to torture someone in a new way. That's not what I meant. I meant it's natural human curiosity to be curious about bad things people have done in history. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't think that it makes us psycho torturers because we want to go to the Museum of Torture. I think we're just curious, like, how people lived in, like, the 1800s when they, like, did something bad. Like, was it biblical? Like, did they chop their hand off? Or was it something more sinister?
Guys, there's going to be a new part of the museum, the Lauren Wolverton method. And it's just going to be some crazy shit, probably involving a cat ripping your face off.
No, you know what it's going to be?
And it will be Mr. Kim.
It's going to be you tied to a chair and me just running my mouth. It's going to be just me nonstop 24/7 talking.
Wow, then mine would be the same. Like I always say, if freaking talking could burn calories, damn.
Wow. Look, these people will be praying for the rat chair or whatever. The
Mr. Kim chair.
With the pommel horse thing. Ew. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that was just a very interesting conversation that we were having. I guess I got to watch Game of Thrones is the overall message of this. But yeah, that's crazy. I kind of want to go though. Weirdly enough, I want to go.
I would go again. I mean, it's just freaky and bizarre and like gives you the heebie-jeebies, and it's fun.
Was it
like,
weird in there? Like when you walked in there, did it feel dusty? You know what I mean?
What? Well, yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to like say like it was a dusty place. Like they have a cleaning crew for sure. Like the museum itself is cleanly, but like they do a good job of like cultivating a vibe. You know, like you walk into this room and it's like what's that thing? The beheading thing?
Oh, not the gavel. What is it called? The freaking
Guillotine. Thank you, Erica.
The guillotine.
The gavel. No, the gavel prevents the guillotine.
Yeah,
Justice.
there we go. Did you?
Justice.
Wait. Okay, what I meant by dusty was I just got so many flashbacks to like field trips that we took in elementary school or like middle school or something. And we would go to like these old New York museums all the time where like battles were fought, like all of these things. And I just like every time you walked in there, it wasn't actually dusty, but it was like a little musty when you walked in. You're like, this is, I mean, obviously it's a piece of history, so it's been there for a hot minute, but you're like,
listen, history stinks.
These mannequins are not up to date. They've been laying there getting eaten by a rat for about 20 years.
That's what I'm saying. They cultivate a vibe. They take you back in time.
Right.
And give you just like, they can't full on give you the stench of like a corpse, but they give you a little taste. It's kind of cold in there.
I think we should
kind of smelly.
We should go.
Let's go.
We'll make a video about it.
Who wants to meet us in St. Augustine?
To go to the torture museum. People are probably like, you're weird.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's a personality trait. It's fine. It's cool. The other thing that we talked about this week, fun fact, I love kids. My first job ever was at a daycare back in Clifton Park, New York. I have always been babysitting. My senior year of college was always babysitting. And we have this running joke between Lauren and I that whenever a child is around, I take on the child. There was literally one time that I was holding a baby's finger as I was taking a shot.
Yeah.
Like multitasking.
It was shot time. And somehow the one baby in the bar found Jamie. Like they love her and she loves them.
And Lauren does not. Lauren will run. We had our friend Katie's little baby. Oh my God. And he's the cutest freaking thing in the world.
I love this kid. Let's be clear.
So cute. And like before he was leaving, I'm like, please just give me a hug. Like I just needed a hug from him to end my day. And Lauren was like, literally like gave him a little pat on the back. I'm like, I think he's like 1.
See, and the thing is, that's a kid that I genuinely love. But like kids my whole life, like I haven't been around a lot of them. My cousins are around the same age. Like I just haven't been around a lot of small children. And so like I feel like they don't care to hug me. Like they can tell I haven't really hugged a lot of kids before, so they don't really want they don't want it. I don't know. They got instincts and they don't like me. And
Lauren
I don't like
just
them.
held her first newborn.
I literally did.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm 25 years old and 2 weeks ago I held my first real baby ever. I was like holding her like up to my chin. I was like so nervous.
That is scary though. I mean, even like being comfortable around children, that's terrifying. But all this to say is that we got into a talk about being at the movie theaters. And I mean, whether you're an adult or a child, I mean, there's a movie theater etiquette.
Listen.
Oh my. Yeah.
I came to the conclusion that children should not be allowed to go to the movie theater if it's not a G-rated movie. I said what I said.
Yeah.
And am I a parent? No. However, I am a patron of the movies, and it ticks me off more than anything on this earth whenever it's a PG-13 or an R-rated movie and there's a 6-year-old in there talking the whole time. First of all, not a movie for a 6-year-old.
No.
Not. What 6-year-old wants to watch? The movie was Top Gun, all right?
Yeah.
What 6-year-old wants to watch that? I get it, there's planes, but like it's not a cartoon. Like there's children's movies for a reason.
Right.
Take them to that. Oh my
Go
God.
to the Buzz Lightyear movie.
There's like a million kids movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it just gets to the point where, and like I said, I love kids, but it's like they just don't really know like when to stop. Like I said this, I ask questions during a movie. I cannot help it. I gotta like shut up sometimes, but I do it very quietly and I like lean over, the kids are just like rattling the popcorn, like trying to bust open the M&Ms and trying to dig their way through. You're like,
here's the thing.
Not now.
I don't want to shit on kids. Kids are going to be kids.
Right.
I will shit on the person who brought that kid into the R-rated movie that the kid obviously doesn't want to see. Like, that's on you. You think this is going to hold their attention? No. You think they're going to be quiet for 2.5 hours? No. That's on you. And again, I'm not a parent. But sometimes in life you have to sacrifice things. And if it's between... If you want to go to the movie that bad and you must bring your child, then find one that's friendly for both of you. I don't know. Don't come for me. I don't want to hear it.
Essentially, next time if you walk into the movie theater with your child and you see Lauren sitting there, give me a call. I will drive there and babysit your child for the night. Thank you.
If it's a G-rated movie, I don't care. That's on me for going to the kid movie.
True.
I expect children in the crowd at the kid movie. But like that even happened like the new Batman. I'm sorry. This has happened to me more times than like that one now that I'm recalling.
Unlocked something.
The new Batman, the same situation happened. Like there were kids and they were playing like whoever was their guardian gave her phone to these two kids to play on during, and this is an R-rated serious movie. Like, it's not on the kid. They don't care. Like, if I was a kid, I wouldn't care about the new Batman movie. It's boring. It's raining and gray. And like, I wouldn't care, but it's like, okay, really? Like, we paid to be here. You're going to give your kid your phone to play on, like, out loud? What is wrong with you? I paid to be here.
Movies are expensive now, too. So expensive. I mean, I was looking at tickets for, because here in Savannah, we have the world's tallest IMAX. Random as hell, first of all.
Flex.
And also, like, okay, interesting. $27 or something to go to the movie. I'm like, listen, I need that $27. I could maybe scrounge up a $12 bill, but like
$12 bill. Y'all seen one of those in person? Me neither.
Oh my god.
I see what you're saying, and if I'm paying $27, I want silence. Complete silence.
Only I can rattle my M&Ms.
That's the thing. Like, I say all this, and then, like, if I did have a question in the movie, like, I'm not going to hold that in. I'm going to ask.
So everybody's guilty. Right. We have decided everybody is. But just kind of keep things under control. But that was hysterical. She really came in, like, hot and heavy. And the next morning was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with the kids being in the movies. And we were like, you are very passionate about this.
Yes.
Right.
And, oh, God. I just opened with like a blanket statement at 8 a.m. at the office. Kids shouldn't be allowed to go to the movies.
Oh yeah,
they were like,
immediately,
what? Huh?
Open the floodgates. But you know, it's okay. It's good. Wow, we just really so many random topics. I don't think you guys understand.
Yeah,
it's actually wild. Anyways,
well, I'll give you like a little preview. Of course, as usual, we'll get into it with our guests and we have a full introduction and stuff. But like a little about this episode. We're kind of diving into like the podcast industry. You know, our whole theme here is that we're 25 and there's a lot of things we know and there's a lot of things we don't. And we are literally learning as we go with this podcast industry and our baby podcast that you all are watching. And so it's kind of cool. Like, we learned a lot and we hope that it'll give y'all a little bit of insight to the behind the scenes of our show and hopefully some of your other favorite shows. So
yeah, hopefully answer some of the questions that you have if you're looking to start a podcast or if you're listening to your favorite podcast, like, how do they make money off this? XYZ. But let's jump to the interview in 3, 2, 1.
Right, y'all, we are here with our guest today. This is Troy Farkas. Troy has been a podcasting professional since 2019. He's worked with some of the top names in sports media, hosts his own show, The Found Generation, and currently works at Spotify. He's an expert on podcasting and the industry. Welcome to the pod, Troy.
Hey.
Lauren and Jamie, thank you so much for having me on. It is an honor. I've been following your guys' show over the past few weeks. I mean, I'm lucky to be on it. I mean, I know this show is going to the moon one day, so I'm happy that I'll get to be one of the first guests before you guys get really, really big, so people can say when they're fans of the show, they're like, I remember when they had that loser Troy Farkas on the show way back when, and that'll be a way of showing or knowing like how hardcore of a fan you are is if you listen to my episodes.
Yes.
So I look forward to me being a relic of this podcast.
Day one, people. And actually, fun fact for everyone listening, Troy and I went to high school together. So we go way, way back. We're reconnecting after, what, like 6 years?
Way back, 7 years? Yeah. You were, were you an alto?
No, I was a soprano.
You were a soprano. You were one of those.
I
okay,
was.
Gotcha.
I was. I think I'm an alto now, though. I can't sing as high anymore, but it's okay. Yeah, we did chorus and musical theater, all that fun stuff together.
Do you know what I'm dying to ask?
Oh,
Troy, please say yes. Please say yes. Did you sing at Carnegie Hall with Jamie?
No, I actually did not. Because I had a basketball tournament that weekend, and basketball never let me go to the singing gigs. I was looked down upon for always having to go do that. So, no, I missed it. But Jamie did do that. I was just not there.
Troy, are you telling me that your name is Troy and you had a basketball singing dilemma? Is this real?
This is real. The character was based on me. Troy, I sing. Number 14 was my number of choice. And so, yes, I was Troy Bolton for Halloween for 4 years straight.
Get your head in the game. What the hell?
You can bet on it. I mean, seriously.
That is so funny. That fact is like, whenever I'm like, what's a fun fact that I can put down? Lauren's like, I mean, obviously, you know exactly what to put down. So that I didn't even like put two and two together. That's hysterical. I didn't think she would ask
singing.
that.
I'm like, yes, we can talk about Carnegie Hall. I think that is so cool. But now it's become kind of like a running joke. Like someone will be like, oh, like what's Jamie like? I'm like, wow, she's singing Carnegie Hall, and like for whatever reason, it's like the only thing I want to share about Jamie.
Jamie's a stud. Prodigy, child prodigy. I mean, all the guys wanted her in school too. She was the talk of the entire school, the most talented, class president. I mean, Jamie had it all. I mean, not that you don't have it all now, but you really had it all then.
Yep. I literally joke with my mom. I think we talked about this on your podcast that I always tell my mom I peaked in high school. So I kid you not, in all of my birthday cards, my mom writes every year, you did not peak in high school.
Aww.
So cute.
Yeah. I still believe that I did, but it's okay. You're so funny. Oh my God. Thanks for being such a hype man, Troy.
Got you.
But yeah, so we're really excited. As Lauren had mentioned, you are like the guru of podcasts and I have just been in this for a little bit. So why don't we kind of start off with your background and let people know where you kind of got your start?
Yeah, so I come from a family of media people. My mom and dad met in San Jose at a newspaper back in the 80s, and so they fell in love there, and I was born in Seattle, then we moved to California and North Carolina, and then up to Albany. Just kind of like the newspaper industry in the 90s, early 2000s was getting a little volatile as other things were starting to come to the forefront. And so I kind of grew up in a media family. I never wanted to be in the media. I never wanted to have any job like that because I always prided myself on being different. I liked going off the beaten path and doing other things. And so it just kind of happened. I got my education. I majored in U.S. history. I wanted nothing to do with a media career, but my education kind of was my childhood, just because I always say that my dinner table conversations were about sentence structure and comma placement. And my parents always edited everything that I did, and I got A's every time because it was professionally edited, because that was what they did. And so their writing skills, and I still buy newspapers to this day because it's kind of what made me me. I love reading the newspaper. I read the Portsmouth Herald where I live right now. I always make sure to subscribe and support local. And in college, I was just like, I kind of need some hobbies. I like, Jamie, if you remember, high school was way harder for me than college was. I was in all the AP classes, basketball took up all my time, singing took up all my time. So I learned time management and getting shit done very early. And so then when I got to college, it was such a breeze for me, and I had so much extra time. And I had broken up with my girlfriend freshman year, whom you remember, Nicole. We had broken up, and so then I really had a whole bunch of time on my hands. I was pretty sad, so I was like, I need to find something new for me. And then my brother told me, hey, because he had just started a radio career. He's 6 years older than me. He'd started a radio career, and he said, hey, UAlbany, which is the college I went to, University of Albany. He said, hey, they have a student radio station. You should go check it out. And I said, okay. And then there was no one really at the there weren't that many people there, so I kind of got to start doing stuff pretty immediately. And so then I parlayed working at UAlbany Student Radio to getting an internship at News 10 Albany in that following summer, which I parlayed into running the student newspaper, running the student TV station, hosting my own TV show there, summer internships. I worked at the Baseball Hall of Fame for a summer in Cooperstown, New York, which was so much fun. And I just basically got bunch of reps, bunch of experiences, never intended for any of it to happen. I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated from college in 3 years with a U.S. history degree. And then I just applied to a bunch of jobs all around the country, just media jobs and some history jobs. And I somehow got, of the 16 jobs I applied to, the one that responded to me was ESPN. And that was the one that I assumed would be the hardest to get.
Mm-hmm. Wild. That's awesome. That is so freaking cool. I love that. I love that so much. So then at ESPN, you got into the podcasting world with them, right? Didn't they kind of put you in that realm after a little bit?
So I started at ESPN Radio, national radio shows from 24/7. It's a 24/7 thing. And so when you start there and you're the young man on the totem pole, you do the nights, weekends, overnights, that whole thing. And for me, it sucked. I was not good at it. I didn't like it. I'm a very structured, regimented person, and my preferred schedule of choice is waking up at 4:30, 5 a.m., enjoying the morning, and then having a set routine, and then going to work, and then going to bed at like 9:30 is my ideal lifestyle. And that was not a thing with my first job, and I just felt totally lost and out of place. I was in Farmington, Connecticut, which is in central Connecticut, middle of nowhere. Could never make any friends because who the heck wanted to hang out on my off day, which is a Monday, at 10 p.m., which is like when I was like waking up because my life was so messed up. And so I knew radio is not my thing. I need to figure out a way to get out of, ESPN's a massive company. I knew I could find a right pocket for me there. And I had made some connections in the podcast department there. And I had kind of laid my eyes on that as a path toward something that I could do, just because I like the schedule of it more. It's a more like 9 to 5-ish, if you will. And I also just like the medium more. I like the medium of on demand, there's a bazillion podcasts out there and you can listen to whatever it is that you want. You don't have to be force fed whatever the radio hosts are talking about that you have no control over. If there's something that you want to learn about, you can just go find whatever it is you want by a quick Apple Podcast search.
So that kind of actually is a perfect segue. You just said there's so many podcasts. I kind of wanted to ask you, how have you seen it grow in the last couple of years, even since you've gotten into it? Because for me, I feel like COVID really like amplified the amount of podcasts I was listening to a day. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's really kind of taken off.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I've become a podcast nerd over the past few years, just reading all sorts of data and studies. And I think the first podcast ever went out in 2005. I think it was the first time the word podcast was kind of ever entered the ether and recorded in the dictionary, but it really didn't become a thing until 2013, 14. I don't know if you guys have heard of this series called Serial. Have you heard of it?
Is it a crime one?
Yes.
I was going to say, yeah, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah, Serial. I think it's like an NPR-esque type docu-series, and that took podcasting into a new stratosphere. That's kind of what made it a serious thing. It was basically like this 7 or 8 part series, murder mystery essentially, and it showed people what podcasting could be and how different it could be and how bingeable it could be. And so it just kind of collided with the whole Netflix and the whole streaming revolution as well, where people wanted things like that on demand. And so that was kind of the start of a new era of podcasting. And then around 16, 17, after that is probably when, okay, this is great. We can put out a lot of great content. Now, how do we make money on this? Because this is all just, of course, a business thing. You want to put out a podcast. All these companies were making investments into podcasting people and talent on air, off air, and gear and studios. And they're like, all right, we're making all these investments. Now, how do we capitalize on it? Was kind of that era of podcasting as more shows were entering the public space. And then COVID took it to a new level because you had so many people who were no longer commuting to work, who had more time on their hands because people were getting laid off, unfortunately, and there was just much more time and content to be consumed, and people were creating more and more podcasts were entering Apple and Spotify and all that stuff, because people realized, it's not that difficult to do this. All you need is like a decent microphone that's $100, and you can do it over Zoom or these other platforms that are really easy to use, and everyone's bored at home and people think they're more entertaining than they are, and they're like, oh, I could do a podcast. And so that's, COVID took the popularity to a new level, and we're still kind of just in the stage right now of, okay, what we're trying to figure out what's next. So for example, there's 4.5 million podcasts out there, but I think only 15 to 20% of them have published an episode in the last month, because, like I just said, people start a podcast because it's so easy to start one, but because it's so hard to stand out and to do it well, people don't realize how much work it actually involves to do it, which is why I commend you two for all the work that you're putting into this, because it is not easy. A lot of people bail out after 4 months because they're like, wow, this is so much more than I thought. I haven't gone viral yet. I haven't, had my Twitter following hasn't grown exponentially. So a lot of people get out. And so there's that coupled with there's no middle class in podcasting right now because the streaming giants like Spotify or like these massive companies are buying up talent, are buying up podcast properties and putting all their resources into them to where that middle class of podcasters can't really survive anymore. And then there's like the lower tier of independent podcasters who are just trying to figure it out. But like the top, much like, the American socioeconomic scale, like the top gets such a massive chunk of listeners and downloads and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny. You said a couple things that like hit so many of our questions.
Yeah,
on
there's
here,
a lot there. Sorry.
The one, no, it's perfect. What I was going to say is when you said like everybody has a podcast nowadays, I swear like everyone on your Instagram feed is like, should I create a podcast with my sister? Should I blah, blah, blah? It's like, maybe not. I mean, sometimes it's good. And I feel like other times people just like to hear themselves talk. So I feel like the biggest thing when you're trying to decide what your podcast, you need to decide what it's going to be about. What is kind of your, what was the word we were using earlier? Your niche? Was that the word?
Yeah, your niche. What is that? The marketing thing? What makes you unique, different, and special?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And so I guess kind of our question is how do people stand out? Is it all about the content? Like what do you think on that?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be about that. It used to be a couple years ago. It used to be just content wins. I would say, yes, content still wins, but there's more prongs to it. I think there is so much content out there, whether it's podcasts on YouTube and Netflix and Hulu and Disney and Peacock are all battling it out for top dog in that industry. There are so many options. What really matters now is community around a show. And here's what I mean. The best podcasts out there, I think like a Call Her Daddy, for example, the Daddy Gang, the fans of the show. Yeah. What Alex does so well is she makes her listeners feel like they know her, like they are friends. They've never met before. They've never interacted in any way, in any kind, but the listener hears Alex through their ears. They feel like they know each other. They feel like they care about each other. It feels like a two-way friendship. And then you feel fan X of Call Her Daddy feels like they can be friends with fan Y of the Daddy Gang. They can have this shared interest that they can talk around. It's like a fan club. You want to be a fan of a podcast like you are a fan of a sports team. That's what stands out today. And on some shows that I work on, we're doing that where we do our shows and we have fans and we interact with our fans in real time as we're doing our shows. And then we're talking, during the week. On my podcast, I just interviewed someone from this community that I'm in. We've never actually spoken on anything other than DMs or WhatsApp, but we just had a face-to-face conversation virtually, that is, because we met through something, a shared interest that we have. And so it's the podcasts that are really good, just content-wise and entertaining, that give some type of value, whether it's information, whether it's comedy, whether it's making you think, whatever it is, coupled with, am I making feel someone like they're a part of something bigger than themselves?
Honestly, I applaud Alex Cooper because I liked Call Her Daddy when it was with Barstool. For me, it was a little too raunchy sometimes. I was like, okay, this is I just don't want to listen to this every week. I love it now that she's at Spotify. I think she genuinely is asking really great questions, doing really great interviews. It's not just a sex-driven podcast. Obviously, she still talks about that, but she actually is interviewing people that we want to hear from. So exactly what you're saying, she's creating that community now where people that might not be as crazy sexual as she is, now are okay, she's actually doing authentic interviews and is giving me content that I want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And one of my other favorite parts about her from a content perspective is you never know what to expect. She kind of changes up the format every week. Sometimes it's a deep dive into some sexual move, or other times it's a deep dive into one person's struggle with addiction. It runs the gamut, but the listeners have the trust in their host, Alex, that she's going to deliver with something entertaining, and she varies it up every week, which I think is cool, because sometimes there's a lot of podcasts that fall into thinking of this has to be a formula. It has to be the same way every time, and they really think about just trying to adhere to that formula, and they don't leave themselves open to new ideas and new ways of thinking. The best thing about podcasting is there's no rules. It was literally built under the premise of there's no rules. You can sit and talk in front of a mic for 7 hours. I think one of the first ever recorded podcasts was just like dead air. It was like dead air for 6 hours, and it was just published. You can make a podcast whatever you want it to be. There's no rules. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. And that's the beauty of it. And I think when people get discouraged, sometimes they're like, I'm not doing this right. There is no right way to do it.
I think we talk about some of our favorite podcasts. I think Joe Rogan is such a good example. I have listened to so many 3.5 hour episodes. And like, if you told me I'm going to make you listen to a 3 hour episode of a podcast, like I would be like, no, literally no, I'm not spending my time. But you do. It just, no rules.
Yeah. No, and I think it's also a space where you can just kind of talk wherever you want. And that's where I think that really works with podcasts, you know, whether it's, I mean, I know even with your podcast, it's very vulnerable, and ours is, and Alex Cooper's is, like, that's how they get to feel like they know you. And like they know the host is by being your authentic self and kind of putting yourself on blast sometimes, as embarrassing as it can be. I mean, literally on one of our episodes, I talked about me peeing the bed.
Right.
And it was okay.
These people know our secrets. And the Morning Toast is another one of our favorites, and something I love that they do. They have all of these little inside jokes, and I literally had to listen for like 4 months before I finally figured out all of them. And it was really fun. I was like on Google, like, what does RDH mean, the Morning Toast? And like, it took me forever to figure it out. And it's cool because then you meet a toaster out in public, and you can talk about all your inside jokes, and it's literally someone you've never met before.
Exactly. That's the best. That's one of the best things about podcasting is connect. It's like when for example, I remember a couple years ago, and this was probably the last time that this happened. I forget what year it was, maybe 2019 or something, when Game of Thrones was in its final season. I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, but everyone was talking about it. Like, if you're a fan of it, you were talking about it with another fan. And I think the goal should be for podcast, every podcaster try to have that goal in mind. Just like, get people to talk about something so that they can connect over something, so that it's cool. It's like, oh wait, you're a Game of Thrones fan, and then you get off into a side tangent conversation for 30 minutes that you never intended on having.
That is hysterical.
We were literally right before we logged on. I was like, Jamie, have you watched Game of Thrones? And she said no, and I was like, oh my God. And I like told her this whole story. Like, anyway, okay, I have to tell the story in the intro then, since we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it. I went to this weird torture museum.
It's crazy.
As one does.
That is hilarious that you just said that. Okay, so one of the points that I want to go back on that you had made is when you said capitalizing, like your podcast, making money. I don't think people understand how podcasts make money. So can you explain that for people that don't know?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to go. There's the traditional method, which is advertising, which is you can sell ads to, and popular misconception is, I need to have tens of thousands of listeners to sell advertising. That's not true. I mean, you can have a couple hundred listeners and you can sell advertising just depending on who you're working with. Sometimes you can work with local brands, Susie's bake shop down the street, or you can work with, a more national brand like a Hinge dating app or something like that. That's usually what people go for first is ads. But you are seeing more people now kind of gravitating away from that and just basically being like, hey, support me. They ask for donations via Patreon, through Buy Me a Coffee, and they give those people exclusive content when they support them in that way. So you're seeing a lot more people do that because some people are A, uncomfortable with selling ads, or B, they just don't think that they have the ability to sell ads, and they'd rather lean into the people that listen to their show or consume their content, and then they support them. And if you get 100 people giving you $5 a month, like, that's not bad.
Yeah,
I love that. And I love what you said. Some people are like nervous about the advertising. Like, I think something Jamie and I, as we navigate this, like, I don't ever foresee us like advertising something that's off brand. I mean, I say that, and if someone offered me like $1 million to advertise something totally off, I'd be like, hell yeah. But like, I think that's also part of that community. Like, you want your listeners, in my opinion, to trust what you're saying, even if it's in your advertising.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably where people get scared, is that they think they're going to represent something that they don't either agree with or that they wouldn't use themselves. It's like, then don't do it.
Yeah. People run into a lot of apprehension with that. They get, I've worked with talent who has been offered money to shill some product, and they've said, no, this isn't something I would work with. I had someone recently say no to a taser company. Like, it was sold to my host under the guise of, you're a father of 3 and you have a wife. This is something that you could protect your family with, and that's kind of how you would perform the advertisement. He was like, no, and he would show the picture of it. This taser looks like a gun. The way things are right now, I'm not promoting anything that resembles a gun. Like, I know there's good intentions behind it, and it's ultimately for just protecting my family, and it doesn't actually harm you. But I don't even want to go down that road, because it could alienate my listeners. They might think I stand for one thing that I don't. So it can be very touchy when it comes to what you choose to represent.
That's smart.
Yeah, no, that's very true. When you just said about making money, I mean, not to kind of put you on blast, but you did make a comment that you've been making a shit ton of money now.
Yeah, from various things. Not necessarily my podcast that I do. I don't make any money on the podcast that I do, because I don't feel I don't want to do advertising unless it's for like a local brand, and I just don't feel like I'm just not. I don't think it's honestly. I don't think it's like up to snuff enough to ask people to donate. But what I do make money on from like my personal stuff is from my Substack page, which is kind of my blog site. It's a subscriber supported site, and so I do have some people over there that are gracious enough to give me X amount of dollars a month, and it warms my heart every time. And honestly, that feels way better to me than any advertiser giving me money to someone that I don't really know. Like, when people support you, it just makes you feel so good. It makes you just want to keep going that harder. But yes, I'm making money. My job at The Ringer, which is on my Spotify, and then I've also produced podcasts on the side in the past, which has brought me some money as well. And yeah, you would be surprised how much money you can make in the podcast business, especially behind the scenes. I'm a behind the scenes person for my day job, and sometimes you just throw out a number in terms of what you think you're worth, and people surprisingly say yes to that number. And then I've eventually gotten to a point where I've said no, where I've been approached by so many people that I've just said no, or I've priced myself out of it, set a price that's like way too high maybe they'll accept this, but if they don't, I'm not butthurt. So I've actually turned down a couple lucrative opportunities just because I'm like, I'm good. I'm not obsessed with making money. Like, there's a number where I'm good. I'm a very, very simple person. I don't need much. I don't really like buying things. I like buying experiences. And so there's not much that I need like millions of dollars for. So there's like a figure that I've just stopped at where I said, I'm good. Because if I make more, I just have to work that much more. And then I wouldn't get to enjoy the funds coming my way. So,
ooh. Troy.
So true.
I love this. I'm like loving Troy right now. But like,
Erica's behind and she's like,
she's making a heart at you. We love you.
I'm dead. There really is so much money in the podcasting world. I mean, we talked about this at the office today. We're like, we had to explain to our families like how you can make money from this. But I think it's important to say that like the quality though, that has to be good. Like, you don't just make money from a podcast by just like throwing things out there and not paying attention to what the product that you're putting out. You got to put work into it, and it's a lot more freaking work than people think.
Yeah, absolutely. For every one of me that is doing well in just the overall game of it, there's 100 people who are not, who are just still trying to figure it out and just keep trying to throw shit at a wall and see what sticks, and sometimes nothing sticks, and then they eventually get out of it, which is a sad reality of this game.
Yeah.
It's a struggle.
You might not have really any more comment because it's kind of unknown, but I did kind of want to circle back to what you said about kind of the middle class in podcasting. And I don't even know what my question is, but I just kind of wanted your thoughts on all these like $1 million deals that are happening. What do you think the future does look like for anyone who's trying to make a good living, but maybe they're not Joe Rogan, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy the money that has been thrown around. I mean, I can speak specifically to Spotify and what they've been doing. They bought Joe Rogan for 10 years, I think, for $120 million. Call Her Daddy or Alex got a 3-year, $60-ish million, I think. That was never officially confirmed, but those were the rumors. It could be more. Bill Simmons, who's the founder of The Ringer, my company, he sold Spotify for $250 million in 2020. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in this game. However, Spotify in their quarterly earnings report 2 weeks ago that got released to the public said, hey, we've spent basically $1 bajillion of podcasting and we project to break even next year.
Wow.
It's a long game. All these companies that are making investments in podcasting are not yet seeing the profits on it, but it is finally trending toward that way. It's been a lot of years of upfront investment to hopefully, come out on the other side with gains.
I'd like $1 million, even $1,000. Just help me pay my rent. That's all I need. $1 million? I'd pass out on the floor.
Can we get a rent sponsor?
I'm dead. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
So for people who think they might be serious and say, I want to start a podcast, what advice do you have?
Most important, be consistent. Consistency is number one. If you're not consistent, if you're not posting your episodes, whatever you decide your cadence is, if it's once a month, once a week, once every other week, whatever it is you choose for your cadence that you need to be upfront with your audience about, you need to stick to it. You need to, if you decide for my podcast, for example, I post my new episodes every single Wednesday at 5 a.m. Eastern time. I'm very hard on myself. If it's 5:01, then I'm a failure and I have not done my audience correctly, because there could be someone who's waiting at 5 o'clock to download an episode of the Found Generation podcast. It's very possible. Consistency is number one, because if people can't rely on you, then why would they come back to you? Why would they trust you? Why would they care about what you have to say if you can't show up for them when you say you're going to be? Consistency is number one. Content quality is obviously up there. Are you providing value in some way? That's the central question that you need to answer with regards to your podcast. Are you entertaining people in some way? Are you making them laugh? Are you making them cry? Are you informing them about something? Is there a subject that you are talking about that is really interesting to them that can help people? Anything like that is really important. So consistency, content quality, also important. The actual quality in terms of the production quality. I know this is a production nerd thing for me to say, but the sound quality really matters. Subconsciously, it matters to the listener. You are more likely to return, if the content is standardized, you are more likely to return to a podcast that sounds good, that the audio sounds crisp, than if it sounds kind of like just your computer microphone internal. That matters. Ditto for whatever video equipment you're using, if your podcast is that way as well. And then I would also just consider leaning into the future. It is clear, and I haven't said this yet, but it is clear that video, kind of like we said, COVID ushered in this wave of video podcasting. You can now, on a platform like Anchor, which is a free podcast uploading software, you can now upload the video file of the episode so that people can watch the podcast on Spotify. You can only do it on Spotify. I wonder if Apple Podcasts will do the same, which is also interesting, because when Spotify started making all these investments in the podcasting game in 2017, Apple backed off. They've completely ditched the podcast game, which was inherent to Apple. Like, they started the podcast, they started the concept. Now they've gotten out of the game and focused on other things, and Spotify is now becoming the king in all that. But video is going to be huge. It's the thing now. Podcast discoverability is a big problem that people have been trying to crack. That's why it exactly hasn't taken off in terms of the profitability of it, because it's hard to find a podcast. And what I mean by that is, on YouTube, there's algorithms that, if you have 30 subscribers on YouTube, it can still be seen by 200 people just because of how YouTube works. That doesn't exist on Apple Podcasts. That doesn't exist on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Amazon Music and all the places. It's like, if you have 30 subscribers, then your 30 subscribers get this episode, but no one else gets suggested this, things like that. So that's been podcast biggest downfall. So that's why video is necessary, especially going into the future. As the consumers of podcasts skew younger, they like watching stuff and they don't have cable, so they're watching YouTube. That is how they watch things, because it's free and easy and just a simple app on your phone or smart TV. So video is very vital for where this is all going and how the technology is going and all that stuff.
Yeah, literally everything that you said is like hit the nail on the head, 100%. It was funny when you said that Spotify is becoming kind of like the king of podcasts, because I remember Spotify in high school being like just where you listen to your music, but now Spotify is definitely the biggest when it comes to podcasts, which is
for
great.
sure.
Even though I listen to mine,
being, company man. I love the app, the Spotify app. I think it's really user friendly. I love the aesthetics of it as opposed to Apple Podcasts, which is where I primarily used to do my listening. Like, it runs into all sorts of problems. I have struggles finding the shows that I want to listen to. Spotify is just a better experience.
Got to rep the company, got to do your thing.
I resisted Spotify for years because I was an Apple Music girly.
Yeah,
I like the way you can make a playlist on Apple Music.
I used to like you.
It's terrible. Well, then I finally, whenever I started dating my boyfriend, he's like, I have a family plan. Please get on Spotify, because it would like drive him crazy. Like we couldn't have the same playlist. And every time we got in the car, I'd be like, do you have Apple Music? I want to look up a song. He's like, you need to learn how to use this. And like once I got on that family plan, man, Spotify is it.
I know. I'm not going to lie. I'm still on Apple.
Oh,
okay, but
Jamie.
I know, and I love Spotify, but listen, that is the only
I thought we
thing-
were friends.
I know, and don't let my parents listen to this because they probably already forgot, but I'm still on the family plan for Apple. So like that's the only thing. Like I pay for everything else besides that, and I'm like, you know what, we're just gonna ride this wave as long as we can. So nobody say anything. But that is why I'm still on Apple for the moment. But I do listen to things on Spotify.
I will add you to our family plan.
I'll hook you up. I know some.
Yeah, what the heck, Troy? Hold on. We also have you need to talk about your podcast and tell everything about it, because we keep referencing it. And I'm like, hold on, we haven't even gotten the deets yet. So let's hear
thank you.
it.
I appreciate that. My podcast originally was called The Troy Farkas Show. I started that in COVID just because I was like, I need to connect with people. I need to create something. I had this creative urge that I need to get out of me. So I did that for a while, and then I transitioned to the Found Generation. I didn't like my name being the show title. It felt very conceited to me, and it was a rush job, honestly, because I was like, if I plan, and this would also be other advice to people starting podcasts, don't overplan, because if you overplan and think about all the details, what is my niche? What is this about? Yada, yada. Yes, that's all important, but people will think about that and overplan so much to the point that they don't actually do anything, that they never actually do the podcast that they want to. So my thing was just like, I'm just going to start this and figure it out as we go. I just need to start it and get going. So it was haphazardly named The Troy Farkas Show. Then I transitioned it to the Found Generation. And basically what I do on my show and in all my writing is I'm obsessed with self-improvement, with growth, with getting better, with making the most of our time. Time is precious. It's our most valuable resource. A lot of people waste it, especially in today's day and age. There's a lot of people wasting time and not getting the most out of life. And so that is kind of the question that I'm obsessed with, is how do young people get the most out of life? That's kind of the area that I'm focused on. And, me and my guests, we talk about things ranging the spectrum of just kind of self-improvement, whether it's curbing social media use, going to therapy, all sorts of health and wellness, whether it's, physical exercise and eating right. I talk about remote work and choosing the right location to live in. That's something I'm currently trying to figure out. I have no idea where to live, because when you can live anywhere in the world, how the hell do you choose where to live? So we talk about all sorts of things like that. Yeah, Wednesdays, 5 a.m., Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. And yeah, I've had some really good conversations so far since I launched this thing, and many more to come.
Yeah.
Including Jamie. She was the best.
Oh, yeah. We had a really fun conversation, actually. And that was like our first time reconnecting after so many years. I literally logged on. He's like, oh, you're like a full-grown human now. You're not like 16 years old anymore. May still look 16, but I am a woman. I'm 24. Here we are.
She's legal, everybody. Oh, my God.
I'm dead. No, but that's so awesome. No, I speak on behalf of both of us. We are so proud of you. And we're so excited. Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
met you and I do feel proud.
So proud.
Thank you.
It's like our little podcast family. Erica's like back there. She's like,
I still view you as that 16-year-old sitting in the soprano section. So it's amazing to see how far you've come. I'm so excited for you in this chapter.
Thank you. This was such a fun conversation today. I feel like we learned so much. Our listeners will definitely learn so much because not everyone is in the podcast world.
Yeah.
On our end of things. So
I have one last question that's going to kind of put you on the spot. What are like your favorite podcasts? You can give me 3, give me 5, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So my favorite podcast, kind of in that realm of self-help, The Daily Stoic. It's by Ryan Holiday. It's basically a 2 to 5 minute daily piece of wisdom from the ancient Stoics. I'm a history guy, and so the Stoics were these Greek and Roman philosophers who just kind of tried to figure out the best way to live life. So I take some Stoic philosophy every day. History Daily, another great show, which is basically on this day in history, this famous thing happened. So you get a little 15-minute backstory into something great. Call Her Daddy is, I don't listen every week, but that's a show that I just admire, as a behind the scenes person. I have a lot of admiration for it. Those are some of my favorite podcasts. And then there's a couple ones I listen to in the sports space. The one that I work on personally, I love the Ringer MMA show. Those are some of my favorite shows that are in my feed right now.
nice. Wow, that's really cool about the history every single day.
That's a cool idea.
That is really cool.
Yeah,
I
it's really
hate
well
history.
done too.
I
Jamie said, I hate history.
well, in school I was the only reason I was good at it because I had to like memorize scripts for musical theater, so I could like memorize that shit so easily.
Oh my God.
But I was never really like into it. But it's okay. Maybe I should start listening and I'll learn more.
15. You can do 15 minutes a day.
Start doing it on Spotify, not on your little
I
Apple
promise.
platform.
I promise I will. I'm going to create my Spotify plan. It will be good.
There we go.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Plug yourself. Where
yeah.
can people find you?
Yeah, troyfarkas.substack.com. You can subscribe to my writing for free 2-3 times a week. You'll just get a little email to your email accounts once you sign up with that. It's not spammy. It's free. Short essays that are just kind of hoping to give you a little wisdom as you navigate your life. Troy Farkas YouTube channel, which is where I post the Found Generation podcast. You can find me there.
Yay.
Love it. Okay.
Thank you.
I feel like I learned a lot of things about the space that we are literally in. Like,
I know.
I love it.
We're just like little babies trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Kind of.
You'll be stars one day.
Aw,
Thanks,
manifest.
Troy. You're the bomb.com.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
He is just such a sweet angel.
I love Troy. Like he
Troy
just
Bolton.
let Troy Bolton, heart of gold, not too worried about making millions, just trying to do good, trying to better himself.
I know. Like we all got to get on that wavelength. I think. Like, how can I be a better Jamie Burton today?
I
Erica's
bet.
like, yes.
I bet Troy drinks a lot of water. I'm just gonna guess.
Oh, he does. I'm sure he does. Yeah, greens, water. I mean, he said he gets up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, he's a hydrated man for sure.
Hydrated podcasting man, all in one. Oh my gosh. Anyways, guys,
There we go.
this has been a very fun episode for us, getting to re-see some high school friends and introduce all different friends. But hopefully you learned some things today. I know we did.
Yeah. And do not forget, every single Monday early in the morning, our new episodes will drop. You can listen on Spotify. Obviously, that's the theme of today. Google, Amazon, anywhere you want to get your podcast, we are available. And we are on YouTube every week. And take it away. Tell us where we are on socials.
Yeah, so we are obviously on Instagram and TikTok, Chicks and Dip Pod, P-O-D. We post some fun content on there, so you can always kind of keep up with little snippets of the episodes and kind of things that are coming up. We'll actually be doing some giveaways here soon.
Yes.
So get ready. And also, we forgot to mention this in some of our other episodes, but you can follow us on our personal Instagrams. Mine is, oh, wow.
Oh, my God. Jamie just punched herself in the chest. Okay, you catch your breath. My personal Instagram is Lauren_Wolverton.
Are we okay? I wonder if you can hear that.
Jamie's Instagram is @Jamie Burton with 2 A's in the Jamie.
Sorry, y'all. I don't know what.
Did that knock the wind out of you?
I really didn't hit myself that hard. It just sounded like it did. When you're like trying to be serious for a hot second, be like, hey guys, like please support our podcast and support us. Just like knock the wind out of myself.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so yeah, you can follow our personal Instagrams. Thank you for taking that away. And also make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yes, please subscribe. And if you have been a listener on Spotify, you can also give us a 5-star rating. So hit that 5-star, hit that subscribe, and please tag your friends, share it. If you're listening to it, please share it on your socials and encourage your friends to listen to us. That supports us in many ways, you guys.
Yeah.
So
and send us your dip pics.
Dip pics, y'all. Anyway.
Love it. All right, well, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.